The AFC West is absolutely stacked. And the majority of NFL fans out there, myself included, feel that this is going to be the toughest division in the NFL this season. But what team from the AFC West is most likely to disappoint this season? Now, many people think that it could be the Kansas City Chiefs. And I have to strongly disagree with that. I don't understand why people think that losing a great wide receiver is the end-all, be-all. Losing a great wide receiver doesn't make or break the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm pretty sure the Chiefs are going to have one or two wide receivers step up this year. Rather that be Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, rookie Sky Moore, or undrafted rookie free agent Justin Ross, or MVS. Somebody is going to step up in this passing game at wide receiver for the Chiefs. You also do have the best tight end in the NFL and Travis Kelce, a top 5 offensive line. And the two most important pieces are still there. That's the big red machine, Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes. I don't understand why so many people are just overly attached to the wide receiver position. It's one of the easiest positions to replace in the NFL. It's harder to find a elite left tackle, an elite pass rusher, compared to finding a elite wide receiver. I'm not saying that they grow on trees and things like that, but if you have good coaching and a great quarterback, you're most likely going to have an elite wide receiver. So I don't think that losing Tyreek Hill makes or breaks the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think that losing Tyreek Hill makes the Chiefs go from the best team in this division to one of the worst teams in this division. At worst, Kansas City is going to come in second place behind whoever else, if there is somebody who's able to take the throne from them. Now, when you look at the Denver Broncos, the Denver Broncos are a popular team that many people think is a little bit overrated. And I kind of got to agree, because I don't trust Nathaniel Hackett as the play caller. He didn't call plays in Green Bay. He was mainly responsible for assembling the game plan and the strategy. But the last time he called plays with the Jacksonville Jaguars, outside of the lone year Jacksonville made it to the AFC Championship game and lost to New England, his offenses have been lackluster, to say the least. So I think that Nathaniel Hackett's play calling is going to cost Denver a handful of games this year. Now, he has Russell Wilson, so his play calling isn't going to be atrocious or anything like that, because if you have an elite quarterback, he's going to make the guy calling the plays look like a genius. But there are going to be certain moments in the games that Denver Broncos fans are going to say, man, what was that? You get what I'm saying? Why would we run that play? So I don't really trust Nathaniel Hackett as the play caller in Denver. But I don't think that they're going to be the team that's going to disappoint in the AFC West this year. I think it's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders went to the playoffs last season. They won 10 games despite everything that they had going on with John Gruden and Henry Ruggs. And I do give them a lot of credit for that. However, despite the fact that they have a brand new coaching staff and Josh McDaniels, who I do like a lot, I think he's going to have it figured out as his second stint as a NFL head coach. But their offensive line is amongst the worst in the NFL. Outside of left tackle Colton Miller, nobody in this offensive line is good. You have Alex Leatherwood, who is most likely going to be starting at right tackle again. He's coming off a disappointing rookie season. You have Denzel Good coming back, but I don't really think that he really makes his offensive line night and day better compared to what it was last year. And a lot of Raiders fans are going to say, well, JT went to the playoffs last year with this offensive line. That really pisses me off when people say that, man. This is not last year. It's 2022. This division is way better than what it was last season. I'm so tired of people undermining the importance of being able to be good in the line, in the trenches. The offensive line matters. It doesn't matter how good Devontae Adams is if Derek Carr doesn't have enough time to throw him the freaking football. You're playing in a division where every single team has pretty much gotten better, and Kansas City is still Kansas City. The Las Vegas Raiders added Devontae Adams. Your wide receiving core got better, but your offensive line still isn't good. Are you really going to tell me that Denzel Good, despite the fact that he had his season cut short week 1 coming back, is going to make this offensive line night and day better? Let's be for real. There's a reason why Cincinnati spent a lot of money in free agency to improve their offensive line. The Las Vegas Raiders took advantage of a LA Chargers team that was in the middle of the pack, that was fairly inconsistent, and the Denver Broncos, who weren't all that great last season. Both of those two teams got better over this offseason. You're not going to be able to have a lot of success in a tough division with the lackluster offensive line. And you can make the argument and say that, oh, JT, well, the coaching staff is going to figure it out. We're going to change some things schematically. Like, the offensive line is one of those things that doesn't matter what you do schematically. It's not going to tremendously improve a bottom half of the league off the line to one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. At best, it will slightly improve. You still have to have guys at the end of the day who can block one-on-one. Who's going to end up blocking Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack? Outside of Colton Miller, do you really trust Alex Leatherwood to handle himself? And you can say, well, JT was a rookie. Penny Sewell was a rookie and handled himself against some of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Rashawn Slater was a rookie last year. It was one of the best offensive tackles in the league. So, if you're going to tell me we went to the playoffs last year, this offensive line, we can do it again, that's nonsense. That's last season. The division wasn't as good last year as it is now. You're not going to win a tough division if you can't win up front. You get what I'm saying? Like, give me a team that has won a loaded division with the worst offensive line in the NFL. I don't think it's happened. But if you can give me 2 or 3 examples, tell me that. And don't give me Cincinnati, because the AFC North was not great. The Ravens were injured, the Browns missed the playoffs, and the Steelers were holding on to a thread by Big Ben. And they were carried by the defense. And we saw what happened in the wild card round against Kansas City. They got blown out. And on top of that, the Raiders secondary is not that great. I mean, you have Trayvon Mullen, he's decent. You got Rocky Sin. I love Nate Hobbs. He had a phenomenal rookie season. And then you sign Anthony Averett, who's coming off probably the best season of his career with Baltimore. But you don't have any great corners. You have okay corners, and you do bring in Patrick Graham. But at the same time, what about Jonathan Abrams? He's a liability in coverage. You see, this is a Raiders team that has really good edge play. I like Denzel Perryman, but outside of that, you're either okay or below average at several positions. And Patrick Graham is going to greatly boost this defense. He's the best defensive coordinator that the Raiders have had over the last decade. But I don't think that this defense is still going to be anything special. I don't think it's going to be a top 15 or top 10 defense. I think it's going to be a middle of the road defense. Top 16, top 17 at best. So you look at the Las Vegas Raiders, I just think that this team is most likely to disappoint this season. And I know Raiders fans are going to get upset about that, but the offensive line just is too big to overlook. Just because you have a lot of great weapons, you still can't overlook how important the offensive line is. If the offensive line wasn't that important, Cincinnati would have never spent so much money on improving theirs. Same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs after they lost to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. And like I said, and I'm going to keep saying it again until Raiders fans get it through their head, the division that you were able to make the playoffs in last season is way tougher this year than what it was last year. We're calling this the toughest division in the NFL. And to win a tough division, you have to be good up front. The Chargers have a good offensive line. The Chiefs have a good offensive line. The Broncos' offensive line is okay. And your offensive line is not that good. If you look at the teams who make it the furthest in the playoffs on the majority of times, it's teams that have really good play in the trenches. Defensive line and offensive line. Cincinnati was an outlier. There's not too many teams that have been able to make it far in the postseason with bad offensive line play. And I like Derek Carr. I like Darren Waller. I like Devontae Adams. I like Thurman Renfro. But at the same time, you got to have the offensive line that's going to give Derek Carr time to throw the football to these playmakers. And in this division, I think that offensive line has to be way better than what it was last year if they're going to be able to get to the postseason this season. Now, some people are going to say the Los Angeles Chargers, because the Los Angeles Chargers were fairly inconsistent last year. They lost to the Texans. They had some really bad losses, but they also had some really good wins as well. And I think that Brandon Staley's defense mainly struggled simply for the fact that he didn't have the necessary talent that he needed to execute his defensive scheme the way he wanted it to. So you brought in Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson. This defense is going to be really good. You have no linebackers, but when he was a defensive coordinator for the LA Rams, they didn't really have any big-name linebackers neither. So I don't really think he cares that much about linebackers in his system. So I think that the Los Angeles Chargers most definitely are going to be able to get to the postseason. So I think that this division potentially could have 3 teams that get in. But I think the Raiders are going to be the team that ends out missing out. And if the Raiders were in a different division like the AFC South or, the NFC East, I think they could win those divisions, because I don't think you need great offensive line play to win those divisions that I just listed off. But if you're competing in the toughest division in the NFL, you're not going to make it far if you're not good in the trenches on the offensive line. But let me know who you guys think will be the team to disappoint from the AFC West this season. I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Make sure that you guys check out the JT Sports Podcast on every single podcasting platform: Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon. Wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available.